2021 has been an absolutely wild year for commercial real estate, especially here for us in Nashville. I'm going to walk you through the ups and downs and lessons learned from running 3 separate real estate companies this year. So as you may or may not know, I actually own 3 different real estate companies. I started off as a commercial real estate broker, so we have a brokerage with the Cobble Group. About 6 months after I founded that company, we founded Parasol, which is my commercial property management company. And back in October of 2020, I formally founded my development company, Hamilton, which is where we're doing the majority of our projects now. But I always wanted to vertically integrate myself within the world of commercial real estate so that we could be the ones that control finding the deals, funding the deals, building them out, managing the project, and then selling them. Literally from the beginning to the very end of every project in its life cycle, we would have control over that. And that's because my background in commercial real estate, I started off at a boutique development company. So we had property management, leasing, construction, development all in-house, which made it honestly very easy whenever we were doing any projects, because if a leasing agent had any questions about construction or build out timelines for one of their clients, they could just walk next door and talk to the construction manager about that. So that's exactly how I decided to build my companies here. And this past year has definitely been crazy. Going into the pandemic, I would have thought that commercial real estate was going to tank, because with so much uncertainty out there in the world and everybody putting everything on pause or terminating contracts, I figured we were going into a commercial dark age. Now, fortunately, that didn't happen. In fact, it was quite the opposite. About 4 to 6 months into the pandemic is when everybody kind of realized, you know what, it's not really going to affect commercial real estate. Let's get back to business as usual. And our business just took off. So this year in 2021, our brokerage actually doubled the amount of sales volume that we did in 2020, even though 2020 was our best year ever. And again, that's crazy for me to think about, because I thought that we were going into an absolute halt on everything. And really, we lost about 3 months in 2020 where nobody was transacting, leasing, buying. Does not matter. They were not doing it because everybody just wanted to see what was going on. But because of how it ramped up at the end of the year, we still ended up having our best year in 2020. And like I said, we doubled that this year. Really excited for the team that we're building here at the Cobble Group, because not only do they help us find the deals that we invest in and develop on Hamilton, but they help us lease up and curate all of these really cool tenant mixes that we have going into our properties, which at the end of the day, really, that's what makes our properties so unique, is the incredible tenant base. And if you don't have a broker that is helping you curate that knows exactly what you're going for, it's kind of tough as an investor to really have a Six Sigma project, right? Where it's just so unbelievably successful that it doesn't compare to anything else in the market. And fortunately, because of everything that we've been doing on the brokerage front, we're starting to see that. With regards to the property management company, we actually 7x'd the amount of commercial real estate that we have under management across the portfolio, which is just absolutely crazy. We started off in 2020 with around 60 to 80,000 square feet of commercial, and now we have well over 600,000 square feet. We also ended up taking a motel conversion to micro apartment units from 0 to 125 leases in 6 months at basically record-setting prices per square foot in an area that is relatively undesirable, but it's because it is a product that is affordable and it's 5 minutes to downtown. And here just recently, we took on another 49 unit apartment complex actually down the street from the Madison Square Shopping Center that we bought back in April. So we're continuing to grow out the multifamily side of our property management company alongside the commercial, which is obviously my bread and butter and my background. Now, the development company is where things get pretty exciting for me. As if all of that wasn't already exciting, the brokerage is doing amazing. The property management company is doing amazing. This time last year, we had about $5 million in assets, right? We had a couple of office buildings, some retail centers, and as of today, we have over $40 million in assets. And that's ranging from, a little 2,000 square foot retail shop that we bought on Gallatin this year, all the way up to a 330,000 square foot shopping center that we bought with some partners out of Texas. So it runs the gambit, and I'm unbelievably humbled that we were able to pull it off. Because if you had told me at the end of last year that we were going to do that, I wouldn't have believed you. I knew that we were going to have one of our best years ever, but I didn't really expect it to be of this level. We ended up going from about 4 or 5 employees across all 3 companies to about 15. And so that has been incredibly positive for us because it's helped foster our culture, because it means that we have specialists on the team that are dedicated to very specific tasks that they need to knock out, which of course helps free me up to go do more of the acquisitions and capital raising side of things. So all in all, across all 3 companies, it's been an incredible year. But y'all don't want to just tune in to hear me brag about how good of a year that we had, because honestly, this year didn't come without its struggles and its failures and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that was put into it by everybody on the team. A few of the lessons that I've learned this year, one, I kind of found where our capital raising limits were. I had never really experienced that before because, again, like I said, we were buying $1 million to $2 million properties, so I only had to go out and raise $400,000 or $500,000, which still it's seemingly a lot, but compared to $2 to $3 million, which we did several times this year, it's not that much, right? Now, we went through 5 capital raises this year and definitely hit that wall. When you're raising from friends and family, which is what we do with our 506B syndications, we go out and meet people, and if they're interested in investing with us, they can join us on our projects. The only problem with that is that most people, I would say probably 99.99% of people in the world, have a finite amount of money. Unless you're the US government, you can just keep printing money as much as you want. So despite the fact that most of my investors would love to keep throwing $25,000, $50,000, or $100,000 or more into our projects, at some point we kind of tap out that well, right? It's just dry. There's nothing else going on there. So we had to get a little more creative with how we decided to structure these deals. And honestly, I had to work on it way harder than I ever have before. And trust me, raising capital is not the most fun thing for me. In fact, it's very stressful. And it's my least favorite part of every deal because I love the creativity that we can put into these projects and the ideation and new things that we're going to implement. I love that side of things and actually developing it and seeing it through. The, fun side of things is not my favorite. But that being said, it's a necessary evil. If you want to continue to grow your real estate investment portfolio, you're not going to be able to get around that, right? You're just going to have to push through it, which is what we did this year. Now, that also means that I found my own personal limits as to how much I'm able to work and how much I want to work, right? For the first time this year, I experienced burnout, which I haven't dealt with ever. I never get stressed. It's one of my superpowers, and I can work 18 hours a day, and I genuinely love it. But there were some points where we were having to push through some really tough things that I just kind of wanted to go down to Mexico and say, peace out, we're done. It's gone, right? Can't do that. The US government would probably follow me considering I have so many investors in our projects. But, look, sometimes you kind of get that feeling because this is a tough business. It's not for everybody, but that's why I'm sharing it with you all. I want y'all to know the real behind the scenes goings on, right? I feel like a lot of channels just share the, hey, here's all the amazing things that we did, and they don't share with you the ups and downs of the roller coaster ride that they went through to get that. And that's not really fair because then you, as a potential investor, have no idea of the potential downsides. So there you go. Raising capital is one of them. Debt has been another one, right? We have had some very interesting issues with getting lending on some of our projects. Now we're getting around that, right? It's just, again, if you want to be amazing in real estate, if you want to be the best investor, best developer, you have to be the best at solving problems. At the end of the day, that's really all that this is, somebody's going to throw an obstacle at you. How are you going to jump over it? And so that's one thing that we hit this year was, okay, well, we need additional guarantors on these notes. Maybe we have to bring additional capital to the table because a lot of the projects that we focus on are kind of cutting edge. We are adamant about only serving small business owners and local businesses, which seems like a no-brainer to us. But when you're a banker or a lender that's underwriting a deal, you see that as higher risk. And so we're trying to change banks' perspectives on working with small businesses and local business owners, because the reason that we were actually able to collect 99% of our rents throughout the pandemic was because we worked with small businesses. We helped them as much as we could. We gave them all the resources that we could possibly give them, and we worked with them through the pandemic. Most corporations, in fact, a lot of corporations, especially in retail, they just sent letters to their landlords and said, we're not paying, deal with it. I mean, you look at some pretty big retailers did that. And what are you going to do as a landlord? You're going to sue one of the biggest corporations in America to pay you rent? You'll probably win, but now you've got to hire an attorney and go through all these issues. That's a whole other tangent. The point that I'm making is that I think that small businesses are actually more secure than credit tenants can be, but banks don't necessarily see it that way. So while we are creating these community engaging and building projects, we've made it a little bit more difficult on ourselves than it maybe needs to be because of that mission statement. We also learned this year not to trust your contractors' pricing or their timelines. That's been a lot of fun dealing with. Several of our projects, one in particular, which I'm not going to name because we're not going to get into that, but they've gone over budget and they've gone over time. And, that's one thing that we're having to have these internal discussions on now is, okay, it happened. It is what it is. How are we going to prevent that moving forward? And so we're having discussions with our attorneys. We're having discussions with the team. It's, what can we put into these contracts to ensure that next time this happens, the contractor's paying for it? Because it's really difficult as a developer to go, trust your general contractor who's supposed to be the expert on building. And then you develop your entire schedule and timeline around their schedule and timeline. Right? So you're telling tenants when they can start installing their equipment and moving into the space and when they should be having a grand opening. And when you start having to push that back because of the contractor's fault, it doesn't matter. It still looks bad on you as a developer because you're the one communicating with the tenants. So there you have it. Those are probably my biggest takeaways from 2021. And we'll be pulling that forward with us into next year and beyond. Nobody's ever going to be perfect at anything, and you certainly won't be perfect at your first investment. It's not going to go well. My first investment didn't go well. We still got a good return for the investors, but it wasn't nearly what I thought it was going to be. It just all comes down to, if you're going through hell, keep on going, right? You got to just push through it. You don't really have an option, and the best horse to bet on is yourself. So keep making those choices and moving forward. In 2022, we'll be taking a big step back. Like I said, since we found our limits with raising capital, I don't want to go raise capital again until I'm not going to be stressed out about making sure that our investor base has the amount of money that we're going to need, right? So that either means I'm going to stockpile enough cash so that we can fund a significant chunk of these deals, or I'm just going to work on building my investor base. So since we acquired so many assets this year that are either under renovation or under development, we'll just focus on those for a little bit. We'll put acquisitions on pause as we have. We still have one more closing in February. It's a property out in Chattanooga that we put under contract earlier this year. But other than that, there's nothing on the horizon, which is very weird for me as a developer because I'm constantly seeking the next deal. But you know what? It's really good as an investor or business owner to realize that there are some years where you'll slingshot forward, and there are some years where you've got to draw back in order to slingshot again. And so that's what we'll be doing in 2022. So stay tuned. We'll keep you guys updated on what's going on in the world of the Cobble Group, Parasol, and Hamilton.